Too many pupils, not enough space, limited equipment. If this is what your PE lessons look like, but you've got a stack of these, then don't worry, I've got you sorted. Here's how I run high engagement PE lessons with nothing but a stack of cones. Let's go.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Exercise number 1 is that we're going to take a cone and put it on our head. All you're going to ask the children to do from this point is to just go for a walk. And we're looking for a nice tall posture, keeping their head looking forward so that the cone doesn't fall off their head. Once they've got this, you can then start to take it up to a jog. And at this point, we'll probably start to see pupils running about a little bit faster than what they should be, and the cone falls off, and that's teaching them then that we need to slow down a bit, we're not fully warming up yet. Once they've done that, an extra thing that we can add for a little bit of cooperation between the pupils is that if they're moving round and they pass someone on their right hand side, put their right hand up, give them a high five. Once they're passing someone on the left hand side, they can put their hand up and give them a high five there. It just adds in that cooperation element to what they're doing. They're also scanning the room, looking round for other people, they're looking for space to move into, all those types of things we can teach through that. Once we've done that, we can add in a couple other movements. So can the pupils stand on the spot, keeping their head up and the cone on their head, and can they spin round on the spot? Can they go one way? Can they go the other way? We can then add in various different types of exercises. We could ask them to perform a squat without the cone falling off their head. Right, that's going to hopefully ensure that they don't bend over too far. If they were to do that, the cone would fall off from the front. You may want to add some lunges to that. Same idea. If they're losing balance to the side or if they're leaning forward from the waist, then we're going to see that cone start to fall off. Exercise number 2 that we're going to try is this time we're going to take the cone and we're going to put it on the floor. We're going to use one foot to try and move the cone as far as we can. We're going to try and build a little bit of balance into the session here and a little bit of lower body strength, also a little bit of mobility in the lower body as well. All right, so the task, the challenge is to put one foot on the floor nice and solid, and we're going to use the other foot just to push the cone as far as we can without putting any weight on that foot there. Okay, I'll show you it from the other side. We can swap legs as well. So I'm going to have this leg on the floor and I'm going to challenge myself to push that cone out as far as I can. You can make it a little bit of a competition if you like, if the pupils are ready for that, to see who can push the furthest. Easy way to measure that is to get everyone standing on a line if you've got the space for that, and then you can see who pushes it the furthest. We can also add to that a push to the side. So instead of going forwards, this time I'm pushing the cone out as far as I can to the side. So you can see there I'm working on some stability through this leg, I'm working on some strength and a little bit of mobility in my hips as well there. Right, we can then bring this cone back. You could even try and push the cone the other way, going across your body, or we can push the cone back the way. And things we're looking to avoid there with the pupils is that they start compressing the cone and putting lots of weight on that leg. We're wanting to work unilaterally here and develop that strength through one side. But as we're doing that, of course, we want to try and work both sides at the same time. Part 3 to this lesson, we're going to try and add in some challenges that will involve some mobility, stability, a little bit of strength, as well as some kinesthetic awareness. So again, we're going to go back to the cone on the head. And the challenge that we'll give the pupils this time is to simply, from standing, sit on the floor and stand back up. All right, so we'll see all sorts of different ways here, all different strategies, right? Very simply, we'll probably see something like that. They'll sit down and they'll stand up. Okay, nice and easy. Most of the class should be able to manage that. Once we've done that though, what you then add in, the challenge is that they'll have to get onto the floor and stand back up without their hands touching the floor. This time you could even get them to put their hands across their chest hands on their heads, whatever you prefer, but they've to get down without their hands touching the floor this time. So what you'll likely see is pupils will go into their knees, roll into their bottom, and to sit, right? Again, they need to get back up, so you might see that position there, which is actually very good for hip mobility, moving the legs round in that fashion, to get them up onto their feet. The next challenge, and one that's quite tricky to do, would be to ask the pupils to sit down without their hands and without their knees touching the floor. So you will see lots of different things here. One of the things we often see is pupils just throwing themselves onto the ground with a bit of a thud. Be careful of that. What we tend to see there is that the cone will very quickly fall off the heads of those pupils. The demonstration I like to show the pupils once I've had a few shots at it is to cross my legs over. Now be careful doing this if you've got any knee or ankle problems, it can be a bit of an issue. But from there, I would cross my legs over and lower myself down to the floor like so. The tricky part comes in trying to get back to your feet, like so. Not as good as I maybe used to be, tells me I need to do a little bit of strength and mobility work, but the pupils can have a lot of fun trying that out. And if you want to add a progression to that, you can ask the pupils, once they've sat down, to lie onto the floor, lie on their back, lie on their tummy, roll over, stand back up. Various different ways you can get creative with it, all to add in that idea of kinesthetic awareness, the children's awareness of their body, where they are in space, their balance, equilibrium, and all those types of things. Part 4 to this lesson, we're going to have the pupils lying on the ground. This time, the cone is going to be placed on top of their toe. Now be careful here, a lot of pupils will try and wedge the cone over their toe so it sticks on. We literally just want the cone resting on top of our toes. We can lie down, nice and flat. The challenge that you set the pupils is to roll from their back onto their front, all the way over onto their back again, without that cone falling off their foot. What we're looking for here, what I like to demonstrate for the pupils once I've had a few tries, is to lie on their back, bend their knee, point their toe to the sky, over onto their front, other leg comes over, like so. In the next part of this lesson, we'll try and bring in some whole body movements here, and we're going to work on a bear crawl. Okay, if you're interested in how to perform a bear crawl, I have another video on my channel which looks at a full progression towards working up to a bear crawl. If you'd like any of these, they can be found up here somewhere, or I'll link it at the end of the video or in the description. So we're going to get pupils down on all fours, and we're going to place the cone on their mid to lower back. The aim is to try and keep their back as flat as possible as they move, to avoid that cone slipping off. Once they've got a feel for that and they can manage it, you can then add in that idea that we did earlier, where they can move around the hall and they can high five with people as they pass them. What that's going to add in is a little bit of anti-rotation. They're having to hold their hand up for longer and stabilise through the core to hold themselves up and to stop the cone falling off. You can even then make that competitive, and that the last person with the cone still on their back, or the person with the most high fives, they can be the winner. Or you could figure out a point system based on that. There's so much that you could do, and I'll leave that up to you. And finally, if you like, you can add a little bit of competitiveness to the session by playing a game of floor hockey. Again, this only involves the cones. It's going to add in competitiveness, but it's also going to continue these themes of strength and stability and balance, all these things that we were working on throughout the session, and we're going to put it in action and put it in a more competitive environment. So you can set up the cones as they are here, depending on your space, depending how long you want the games to last. You can decide how far apart the goals are, how wide the goals are, etc. You're going to have one person starting on this side defending this goal, and you can have one person starting on this side. They're going to get into the plank position, and the aim is to try and use one hand to slide the cone across into the opposition's goal. If they manage to score a goal, then they can get a point. The other person, meanwhile, is trying to prevent that cone from going past them through the goal. Now, you can do this multiple ways as well, depending on your space. You could ask pupils to set up 1v1s all around the space if you have quite a large hall. We have quite a small hall here, so I've done various things. You could have a team, and every time someone scores a goal or loses a goal, depending on how you want to organise it, they can then swap with another person in their team coming into play. What you might also do is, if you're very limited in space, is you could have two teams, and you could have the same idea. You could have a line of people, and if someone loses a goal, they're out, they move round to the back of the line, and the next person comes in. Various ways you can do that. I can leave that up to you as a professional, as the organiser of the session, what best suits your pupils in that moment. After years of having this lesson up my sleeve, I've been able to figure out ways to stretch that lesson out and fill a full period of work. Sometimes we have pupils who are maybe less engaged, and for those moments I've got various agility drills, reaction drills that we can perform just with the cones. If you would like to see those, please drop it into the comments and I'll put together a video which demonstrates those games as well. If you've liked this video, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.